So thank you everyone for joining the webinar. My name is Ankita and I'm the regional manager for Africa in Frappe. I look actively into business and marketing enablements for the community. Today we'll be going through on Tanzania localizations around ERPNext, and we have with us Mitesh Choksi. Mitesh Choksi is a technology evangelist and the founder at Aakvatech Limited. He's an he has been a local community member for a really long time and is a go-getter and a software enthusiast. So he has been around for software development and has around 23 years of experience in ERP for large enterprise implementations. So after which he laid the foundation of Aakvatech that would innovate and provide software solutions. Aakvatech Limited has been an official Frappe partner for more than 4 years now. And currently they are at the highest level of partnership, that is gold partners with Frappe. So we will welcome and thank him for providing insights around the localization in Tanzania. So before we start the session, we are just going to run a quick poll. And we would request everyone to spare a few minutes and just revert to the poll. Let me just start the poll. Right. So I see that mostly people are from Africa itself. And they are using ERPNext. Great. So over to you, Mitesh. Maybe we can start with the topic of discussion today. And maybe you can tell about yourself if I've missed out on anything.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I wouldn't have done better. We have this specific aspect, and I have also participated in a couple of talks on this before. But I would like to have a quick look at what other things has been done, and it has definitely been helpful for us as a company to implement for our customers, and I'm sure it will help others either for self-implementation or for their own other customers. The aspect of localization came in after we became partners to ERPNext. We chose ERPNext over any other ERP software, and we are in five years in operation now, currently the certified gold partner. We have sponsored various PRs in a gesture to give back to the community what we could, and all of our code is open source for all our verticals that we implement in. We are having experienced 100+ implementations, so it has given us the insight on what difficulties are being faced by the process of implementing, which is one of the most difficult things in any ERP process when it comes to getting it to up and running. We have managed to cover many customer types: FMCG, hospitals, manufacturing, distributors, retailers, property management, and many more. Just like any other company who starts off ERP, we actually had a lot more customer types, and then we started focusing on what we could do most, and then we have our other colleagues in the market who are helping with other types of customers. So been on the the Discuss forum for quite some time, and we did our part of assisting as it was possible, and also getting help from the community, which has been the biggest inspiration to date. So let me talk about Tanzania. Tanzania is actually a combination of Tanganyika and Zanzibar, which came into being on the 26th of April when the union was formed. The independence was achieved long before. But Tanzania is actually the land of Kilimanjaro. It is the rooftop of Africa. It's the highest mountain in Africa, and we're proud to be in that country. It's on the eastern side of Africa, and we face the Indian Ocean, looking towards to Mumbai, where the Frappe headquarters are. So what are the intentions for our country-specific functionality and why we chose to do it? The first was that coming from a commercial environment, we always saw a need of having this product tuned for the local country, and why would be differentiated is by adding value on the ERPNext. But we do realize that open source was the key here, and so we kept it open source as our from day one, ensuring that anybody else who are in Tanzania can also benefit from it. Then we realized that while the other ERPs were in the market, none of them were offering something which was tuned and helping the local users, which would assist them to improve their productivity. Also, there were several other local pain points that were not taken care of. And the implementations would go ahead, do a standard implementation, and the customer would still feel the pain of going through manual processes and updates. So that's something that we realized was necessary to be addressed. And obviously, there are times when you figure out there is a function that you like to have in the system, but want to test it out within your own test and the user base before you publish it for general public, which is affecting around the world. So we do have that many of such features on board as well. So in a sense, we are covering new features. We're having new modules in the systems, which are kind of running parallel to CSF TZ as a repository. We have many reports which are relevant to the Tanzanian market and the Tanzanian requirements, many of them on the payroll side of it and the compliance side of it. Many support utilities which helps us to provide assistance to the customers or allowing us to do automatic configurations for our user base, and also to ensure that the tax compliance is achieved by the correct configuration in place. We have written many functions which override temporarily till the bugs or any other feature additions are done, and then we remove it once it is part of the core product. So that's what we cover as part of CSF TZ. So a quick idea about what it is about. It's got 113 reports. It's got 13 print formats as of right now. It's got 22 master data doc types, 32 transaction doc types, hundreds, 900 plus JavaScript and Python function. It is open source. It's got, since our inception of the company, we started with the first app, which is CSF TZ, which we thought was necessary. So it is 5 years in use. We've got 12 contributors from 6 different countries here. So very thankful for those who contributed towards this repository. I'll go to the features of CSF TZ, but I'll take a stock of what we have here. And this is not the only thing that is expected to be part of it. There is a lot more that can be done. It's a matter of identifying the gaps and then ensuring that we can fill them and have this added to the product that we have. It has immensely helped us to do implementation in Tanzania. It's helped us to do implementation in Eastern Africa, whenever we wanted and needed it to be done. And some code or the other has been deployed for companies in Zambia, some companies in Uganda, obviously Kenya as well. And many ideas have been implemented in other places around the world. we don't even know at times where it is used. It is founding is making a foundation for many of our other products, other modules that we've developed, and that is why when people want to use a feature like healthcare or property management, they would have installed this earlier before installing it on the other stuff. So that's where we come from. So let me go through the features one by one. It's every feature has a story behind it, so it can take a long time. I'll try to go through as briefly as possible, and do let me know should you want me to elaborate on anything later in the question answers. So our first compliance requirement was the EFD machines. We have this unique machines in Tanzania, which is required to create an invoice. It's a physical device and a printer, and then it gives a total of transactions. We have built this utility to punch in those totals and ensure that that particular day's transactions are recorded and compared against, and it tells us whether we have considered all the invoices or not. There are times when some invoices could have been missed out. It has been a major pain point for local users and businesses, and that was why we had the first thing done. It actually reminds the users to know how many invoices are already considered as part of the totals and which ones and how much total is remaining. So the left side shows you what is in the system, what is on the printout on the machine, and the right side shows you what is in the system. If they're meshed, that means that we have a tally in place and we can continue and issue out the. We can say that this is all done. None of the sales invoices have been missed out to be registered. So that was the first thing. There is a Z report management that comes with it and keeps a record. And whenever a tax authority asks for a report from the system, which says how much was your system total and how much was the machine, the physical device total, then a report out of this would help them to know even if there was a difference in a few cents. And there is a slight allowance to help that out. So that was one of the first features we developed. We then realized as a technical team that there are times we would like to make changes to print formats or formats on the existing ERPNext reports or any other script and query reports in the system. So we went ahead and developed this extension, which would kind of override the HTML or, if required, even the Python script, and help us run this report with a different print format in place so that we can have the same report run, which is developed by Frappe contributors in ERPNext or ERPNext contributors, but override with the slight changes that you would like to do for our local requirements on reports. Very useful. I'm sure somewhere down the line this will be part of the core product, but till then, this is like a pre-release experiment that we have done to help us out. In Tanzania, we have parking which is registered, and the parking ticket is sent back to the central system. You could look it up online and see how much is paid. Since ERPNext has a dog type of vehicle, we went ahead and looked up all the vehicles in ERPNext, looked up the parking bills, and alerted the users and the accounts team that this particular parking bill is remaining. Now, why it was important that if you do not pay on time, there is a fine that will be charged. And in order to get away from the fine is why you need this kind of utility available for the customer to make use of. Obviously, from here, a lot of other things can be done. Like we have a specific, not a QR code, but an ID of a transaction that you have to pay to use as a reference when paying to the government. And all these things gets recorded in here. I've hidden the numbers of my car so that it doesn't show up anywhere else. Similarly, we also have a vehicle fine record whereby if a vehicle is fined, it will pull up from the relevant authorities website, indicate what is fined for, when was it fined, what was the license, this is a fake license number that is used, and what is the status, whether it is pending or whether it is paid for or not. So you could have a offense indicated, and this was necessary because the drivers would forget to let the administration team about the fines that has been incurred, and then there would have been a penalty, like you can see as an example here, which would then incur more cost for the company, something that we wanted to avoid the customers to get into. So another feature that added on the system. Now, since we are in Tanzania and there is a hierarchy of geography that we need to be taking care of in our transactions, we had this database pre-filled. So when we install CSF TZ, it actually pre-fills this database, makes it available for users to make use of in any doc types that was required somewhere down the line. And we use it in many places as well. The good part is once we have this in place, whether it's a transportation module, whether it is employee records, it all becomes available in the system. We then have the cover notes functionality that is in place. And this is like in Tanzania, we have insurance covers given out, and there is a need of reminding when is the insurance expiring. And that's why we have the cover note end date available for you. And that particular cover note end date is then available to create the alerts upon. So I think the point is when the notifications come through, people know that you have to renew the insurance cover notes, and you make this doc type available to send out the relevant messages. We also had a situation whereby ERPNext allows you to have on account payments, right? So you have a payment coming in, it is unallocated, and you can make use of in the next payment. But what if it was a supermarket and the customer paid for it? So we added a feature of OTP register, whereby you register the OTP for the customer. They use a one-time password. So when they come and buy something, you know that it is their account which is in use, and you cannot pay out of their account unless and until it is using the advance payment, unless the OTP is added to the system. So this helped us to make sales or from the point of sale using a sales invoice, but have an OTP required before the sale can continue. And if the OTP is received is when it will go ahead and submit the sales invoice, reducing the money that was on unallocated for that particular party, and then make use of it into the transaction that is to purchase some things. Very useful for some of our customers. We had this item barcode tool required because so many times when you take on data, the barcodes are not available directly on an Excel. You might want to run around with a tablet and then pick up the barcodes, or a laptop, and then you pick up the barcodes from the floor. And so this tool helped to pick up an item, identify the barcodes that it has in different UOMs, and update the item doc type upon saving it. Because otherwise the workflow of updating the item doc type is pretty long, and this was to quickly update the barcodes of all the items that are there. Another nifty tool for implementing or making our implementation a bit faster than otherwise. Now, this is an example of a transaction that is showing exchange. I'm sure many of the users have required a need that the transaction is passed, the delivery note is submitted, the customer is then delivered the items, and the customer comes back and says, you know what, I did not need this red pen, I wanted a blue one. So because we have e-invoicing in our country, doing a full And then there's no cost difference as such. Even though it would be going into as another cost to the company. But in case the item has to be changed, you would have to identify which sales invoice it was, pass a return on the delivery note, create a new delivery note for the new item, create a new sales invoice. Now, this tool was developed to just make an exchange. It would then create a material stock entry for which is reducing and increasing the stock from that particular for that particular item from the warehouses, and marking it that as what was exchanged. This reduces a lot of paperwork, and since there is no major impact in terms of taxation, and that's what it's a submittable doc type, so the process of approval will take care of that. It helps to make our customers process faster. Another nifty tool for regular use. Then we have situations whereby we have customers with multiple companies, but not real companies as such. These are all excuse me, these are all virtual companies. So from one company to another company, if you went to transfer the stocks in real process, you would have to create a delivery note and a purchase receipt and then mark it as an internal customer, and it's a pretty long process. Whereas in here, it would create a material receipt on the destination, material issue from the production using the same rates that are coming from the not production, but material receipt on the destination, issue from the source, and go ahead and mark it as the stock ledger entries, so reduction in the increase. Again, reduces a lot of time and unnecessary transactions that would not be required in a setup whereby the companies are virtual. They are just created so that the branches can be catered for, because Tanzania is Tanganyika and Zanzibar, as I mentioned earlier. So we have different companies which are having branches in Zanzibar, which has a different VAT rule, a different management of taxation. So while it is the same company, it's a unique situation we have here. But this helps us out to come out of the situation without multiple steps in the transaction processing, reducing the time and increasing the user productivity. We have in Tanzania the bank charges in our country, whereby every transaction has a bank charge, local transactions inclusive, which is unique, at least what we have seen in our country. So what we had to do is to have those bank charges uploaded in the table below. And once we submitted it, it would then go ahead and create the purchase invoice for the lump sum amount as of the end of the month, which is the posting date on the left here, and create individual payment entries which are on the dates listed here, so that when the payment entry creates, it gets created for each item with that particular amount. And we have the format which is similar to what the bank statements give out. It will be filtered by the type of transaction, which is the bank transaction, would be uploaded over here. And the system will generate the payment entries in bulk and one purchase invoice at the end of the month. And that would help to complete the transaction of all the purchase, all the expenses registered as the bank charge, as well as the purchase invoices, purchase payment entries for that particular bank account. So we have a bank supplier which becomes our supplier for the purchase invoice and payment entry to the supplier as in the payment entry. It reduces our time considerably, because our customers would not need to create individual bank charges when they have so many transactions in the system. Very useful tool as well. This was a unique requirement in our country, whereby managing stocks for production was a bit tough. Let's say there was a teacups to be create 15 of them. You don't want to go through the full process of workflow or stock entry. You at the end of the day, you just say how much production I have done. Based upon how much sales I have done, it would then calculate what was the total production of the day versus vis-a-vis the previous day's transaction. It creates the production entry in the background, backdated, and it would then go ahead and allow you to see the process as if somebody had done the production entry at the time in the past and take it further. So you would have all the balances of all the items added below in the closing balance details, and it would go ahead and generate the production stock entry of type manufactured in the background. Pretty useful for people who did not need to go through a complete production process, but still wanted to have that information as to what raw materials were used, because it will use the BOM for the particular item and create the transactions for consumption of the raw material and production into the final transactions accordingly. We also added recently a feature which is for BOM additional cost template, so that when the BOM is created, the stock entry allows you to enter the cost type, but we wanted to ensure that some kind of a template is available so that when a production stock entry is created, this particular additional costs are part of it, allowed to tune a final amount slightly, but at least calculating based upon a cost per unit. Again, useful nifty tool for users in our region. We also have times when we need to send out salary slips for payroll entry, and whether we want to send or not, it is indicated over here, and then you could save and then submit, so that or if something had happened that you did not receive the salary slips on time, this would be used to send out the salary slips accordingly, and that would help to, let's say, identify which employees you want to send and which not, and then send it out to them. We also created an ISO 20022 and integration for two banks. One has facility for only employees, and other has facility for employees as well as suppliers. So PAIN, payment initiation, is a code used for that particular functionality, and we have Stanbic and Kenya Commercial Bank integration that is in place for users to make use of. Just let you know that all this thing is part of CSF TZ. So should you need to tweak it for your region, you can make use of this feature and have that updated in your particular regional module. We also have a piecework management feature whereby you indicate which employees have done how much work, what is the task rate, what is the task name, and then additional salary would be created for that particular employee for that particular month, so that when your salary slips are created, it automatically adds those particular piecework information based on, and it also retains what type of task was done. Something we have followed throughout our customizations is to layer on top of what is there in ERPNext, so that it always is useful to know what is existing and use it, but layer it with our reporting requirement that can be made use of. We have a feature for import file, just like the other ones we've said. Now here what happens is when there is a expense done for a certain importation of a item in Tanzania, physically there is an import file that is created. That import file has information about the bill of lading number, the number of containers that it be having, what is the invoice quantity and stuff, who is the clearing agent. And once the information is there, all expenses are tagged with this import file. So we have a custom field of import file which is tagged in all the expenses. In the landed cost voucher, when you select the import file number, it pulls down all the expenses related to this particular import file, list them over here, so that you don't have to remember which expenses do you want or you were supposed to be adding into this particular transaction, you just book your expenses, register the import file number against it, come up to the landed cost voucher, select the import file number, and it would pull the expenses with the description and add the amounts. Depending upon how you want to distribute it across in your landed cost voucher, it would then update your purchase receipt or the purchase invoice with update stock. So that is another very useful tool for our import heavy country, whereby many of the items are imported and there are several costs affecting the importation that has to be capitalized to your stock, and that's where it is very useful. Something small stuff we have done, a copy of or rather a similar aspect of what we do for the notification, but here we only want to set the values and not notify users. It helps to archive records which you don't want to have it seen on the screen, and then you apply the user permission to not have the archive records visible on the screen, so that only the administrators or maybe the accounts manager has the visibility to it. The accounts user don't need to have the visibility of the archive records. So there are use cases like in sales invoice. It could be stock entries, it could be reconciliation, stock reconciliations, and so. But this would then be helping us to set the relevant property after the trigger and have the visibility then used as means to mark the level of visibility, whether the status of archived or not, and you could then have the user restricted to transactions of a certain date before or a certain type not visible. It's kind of auto setting even of the depending on the conditions for various aspects, like it can be used for even things like setting the territory based on the user who is entering the transaction, if the user permissions are not having default set. There was a situation in our implementation where we needed to do root cause analysis, and we added this as part of our CSF TZ so that it could be used for any customers and internal, and they could add this information about the root cause of a certain incident that could have happened, and that could be stored and reported upon when time comes for the improvement of their own internal systems. So these are some of the features that we have there. There will be a lot more that will be added, but the modules that we are having, which works alongside with ERP, with the CSF TZ, are the VFD providers. This is our e-invoicing providers in Tanzania, and we integrate with the customers' VFD providers into the system. It's a flexible module whereby we keep on adding more providers as the customers need them. And we already have 3 providers right now on top of that. One is our own app, another are 2 other providers. The Marley Healthcare, which was previously known as Frappe Health, it has already enhanced with so many things which are specific to the workflow or in the healthcare industry that we have in Tanzania, and also with a lot more additions with the National Health Insurance Fund, which is our insurance provider from the government. Very simple set of things like adding a patient automatically based upon the records in the National Health Insurance. Things like sending claims automatically because our insurance provider helps and has API to do that job. So a lot more ease for the hospitals. We have a property management app which sits on top of CSF TZ as well, and helps to real estate companies to do their regular billing with different frequencies. We have enhanced the Frappe education app to make use of the banks as we have a trend in our country whereby you give a bill number or a reference number, then they pay in the bank via in any of the means, and then the banks have a special feature whereby they would send back a callback into our systems, into the ERPNext, it will create a entry against a sales invoice or a fee and automatically mark the payment for that particular student's fee done. So small sets of enhancements like that is part of the EFD TZ app that we have. HL7 is a language used in laboratory equipment, and that's where we have enhanced to integrate the laboratories and have the data from the lab equipment automatically come to ERPNext. It works hand in hand with the Mali Healthcare or the Frappe Health, as we knew earlier. We have a repair service and repair shop application that also does booking for your service items or vehicles generally, and helps you to take the workflow of a job card being created, items being registered as to what are needed for repair, marking the repair done, create a bill out of it, and so on and so forth. That's part of our service MS application. On the right that we have here is the schedule and sync API. This is very useful for some of our customers who are requiring API to be just stored and then processed later on. Unlike the Frappe API, which is synchronous, this is an async API. It will pick up a Frappe API call for a resource as well as a method. So useful tool. It could be used for any user. It doesn't depend on CSF TZ as such. Rebate management app depends on CSF TZ, but we have had users bypass it and use it in other countries. This is when the supplier gives you a rebate after the transaction has already been done. The next one we have is visitors logging application to manage the visitors coming into your organization and helping you to know which visitors in your office, who has come for visiting you. You have a notification using the notifications log type, and you can then mark that you have completed the visit so that the information is registered. There are times when mining companies and other regulated companies where safety is very critical, they need to log the visitors who are in your organization if in case of any emergency that can happen. We also have a working bulk webhook for sending bulk data. Webhook, is working on a document by document. Bulk webhook works on a bulk of documents together. So that's something that is also useful for customers who are having the development teams and their own other applications to send data to. We have an inland container department application that is in work in progress right now. Will be done soon, and we have incorporated the workflow in Tanzania for inland container department for that purpose. And there's also a transport management application that is in place where it takes care of the billing and of the transportation trip and gives you a profit and loss by your truck or your transportation vehicle, or maybe by even a transportation invoice. So we've developed some modules like that, which helps our customers to continue and reduce the efforts that they put in to use ERPNext and benefit from the wonderful framework that is already in place. I will quickly delve into some do's and don'ts that we have realized while we were doing it. First thing, don't waste time in beautifying ERPNext interface. Use it as it is. Focus on the functionality addition, and then work on beautification. And we also realize a lot of people working hard to hide the fact that you have ERPNext under the hood. It will be obvious after a while, so there is no need to do that. No need to spend time and energy in that. You'd rather spend time and energy on the functions which reduces the user's workflow. So I have to identify the gaps that are necessary. Ensure that any mundane tasks that are there are also identified to be automated, and work on that. Prioritize on the features and modules that will boost the user productivity, because otherwise it is fruitless effort of making changes on the UI, whereas the users struggle to improve the productivity. So with this, I've already taken up 40 minutes of the time. I'll quickly go through some use cases that we have done. We have multi-site, multi-branch retail outlets management done very effectively using ERPNext, and it's been a breeze to use it. We've done some huge set of integration with mobile applications, and we have seen the users benefiting out of it for delivery management. It has been successfully done, used for many years now. And we have customers who are at a very large scale of transaction processing, in fact, we have the largest Frappe cloud server, if I recall correctly. And most of the customers who are hosting on Frappe cloud have not seen that level of large scale transactions. They believe that it is not possible, but we already have 3 users who are using it in a very large number of transactions. So Frappe cloud is been a very good platform on which we are seeing our apps and the users transactions managed well. I will leave this now to the questions if there are any, and then we can have the answers to them. I hope this presentation was useful. It's a quick snapshot of what has been done. It is something that will help the community at large, which we all are so fond of, and hopefully will help our Tanzanian users and other Eastern African users to benefit from as well. Over to you, Ankita.
Yeah, Mitesh, if anyone has any questions, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. We are not being able to see any questions in the chat box though. Also, in case you have any questions, you can also reach out to Mitesh directly. He has already shared the email ID. You can see it on your screen as well. Okay, I can see one question. It's by Meena. How long did it take to develop the core localization and stabilize it? Mitesh, you're on mute.
Yeah. So essentially, we started 5 years back, and we are slowly adding it to it as we identify whatever are the difficulties that the users are facing, whatever are the business use cases which are common across our customers. We keep on adding into here, because as we have all benefited from ERPNext, which is a highly general use case for all the users around the world, we had our own users in Tanzania and Eastern Africa asking for one feature or the other. And we kept on adding them over here. And there are a few things in the pipeline, because what happens is that when we have developed something for a certain customer and we have another customer asking for that again, we would then go ahead and see if there is a merit in getting it for the general public, and then it would be rolled out to the CSF TZ. And then whatever is in CSF TZ, it can be rolled out to the others. There are many smaller things as well we have done. Like when you give access rights to a user for sales invoice for a completely new role, and you want that role to be able to use a sales invoice, you would have to give access rights to all the link fields as well. Whereas we have a feature in here, CSF TZ, that allows you to automatically give access to all the child tables and the child tables, the link fields within the child tables, and the link fields within the parent tables. Something that reduces a lot of work when we want to do access rights allocation from top. So this kind of things we have been slowly gathering since the past 5 years, and we keep on add it. And stabilization is like one feature at a time, so it's not difficult. Any other questions? Yeah, the functionality is only in CSF TZ right now. We do not know whether it is useful for others or not. At least we found it useful. I had heard in the conference in 22 that slowly all the information will be moved it into doc types, things like configurations, things like the uh, print formats and the scripts as well. So yeah, I think if it happens that this will be rendered as a deprecate feature, but if not, if there is good traction, we can type together and we can contribute, not a problem. We have not seen any other um, questions on the forum that ask for such a feature as such. But if it is required, it can be done very easily.
Right. So anyone has any questions, they can unmute also and ask the questions. You don't have to write it on the chat box now. You can just directly unmute and ask the question. Okay. Since we do not have any other questions, maybe we can wrap it up. So thank you once again, Mitesh, for giving an insightful overview of the Tanzania localization. I think it has been really helpful. Okay, I think there is one question which has come up. So maybe you can take this question up.
Okay, so this functionality is using the flow that we have seen in transport companies in Tanzania. It's not restricted as such, but we do have some fields of CSF TZ that we are using in Tanzania. So we always keep CSF TZ as our requirements, so as one of the prerequisite in requirements.txt. But it doesn't harm to try it out without and see what can be done. We haven't tested it out. Yeah, we have a customer in Zambia who is using it, but I think overall it should be possible to use it everywhere, providing that the workflow of a transportation company in the other part of the world is similar. I'm not sure how much it is, because we've heard that different countries have different rules and different steps to be followed, and so it might work, it may not work. Not sure about it though. You could try it out. So road rule penalties are in Tanzania. It is specific to the police force of Tanzania, exposing this information to us for picking up from. I don't see if there is any other country which allows you to check online your penalties. It should be possible to get it done. Not a big deal. You could pick up the code from ourselves or from CSF TZ, or you could actually do it by using normal webhooks, which is scheduled API or something. It should be possible, but it is included in CSF TZ.
Right. So if there are no other questions, maybe we can wrap it up. So thank you once again, Mitesh, for that insightful discussion around. Okay, there's another question.
But I think it's thanks, Samir.
Yeah. Great. This session's recording will also be available after 30 minutes in the same link that through which you have joined the webinar. And we'll be also publishing the webinar on YouTube by within the next 2 days. So it will be accessible to you as well. So in case you have any questions, you can reach out directly to the Mitesh or the Aakvatech team, or you can reach out to Frappe as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mitesh. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.